Hello and welcome. I'm Laurel Stewart, and here's what happened this week. President Ching-te has announced measures to combat China's attempts to influence Taiwanese society. Rees reports from the presidential office in Taipei.
Chinese espionage and national security were the focus of a surprise press event held by Taiwanese President Ching-te on Thursday afternoon. Lai laid out 17 new measures to protect Taiwan and its citizens from what he called major threats from the Chinese Communist Party. Some of these threats include efforts to confuse national identity, economic coercion, and military espionage. Among the new measures are working with allies to communicate Taiwan's strong national will, reforms to military law, including harsher punishments for personnel who work against the national interest, and bringing back the military court system, closer monitoring of Taiwanese citizens going to China, and more regulations on Chinese, Hong Kong, and Macanese citizens looking to settle in Taiwan, raising awareness of the risks of traveling to China for Taiwanese people, and strategic adjustments to cross-strait economic and trade structures. All this, Lai says, in response to China's constant attempts to undermine Taiwan's sovereignty.
过去这段时间，中国更利用民主台湾的自由与多元开放，吸收黑道、媒体、名嘴、政党，乃至于现退役军警，在我们的内部进行分化、破坏、颠覆等活动。
In addition, concerns have been growing domestically in Taiwan over China's ability to infiltrate the country, including Taiwanese military personnel being compromised, government officials with links to the Chinese Communist Party, fears that China's trying to recruit Taiwanese students studying in China, and even with social media influencers, including cases recently with some high-profile Taiwanese artists and influencers being called out for writing or posting articles on Chinese social media platform Weibo that call Taiwan a province of China. All this has been enough to push Lai and his administration to take a fine-tooth comb to the many and varied ways that China is trying to undermine Taiwan's sovereignty and seal off pathways Beijing is using to tighten its grip on Taiwanese society. John Su, Ryan Wu, and Rees in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
For more on the increasing security risks Taiwan faces from Chinese infiltration efforts, Tiffany Wong spoke with Chen Guoming, Editor-in-Chief of Defense International.
President Lai just announced 17 measures to counter Chinese infiltration efforts, especially those that target Taiwan's military. And there have recently been several cases where former or current military officers gave information to China. Could you talk about some of the measures that Lai has suggested, and do you think those will be effective in protecting Taiwan's national security?
其实，赖总统说，他可能要恢复军法审判这个很重要，这个很重要，因为其实呢，军法较一般的法律它比较严苛就是说它对于这些军人的规范比较严苛那甚至呢以前还有部分的话就是限地枪决比如说你敌前比如说你在前线抗命disobey the order 的话，其实都会予以枪毙透过严格的军法来约束就人民去从军这个很重要，因为其实尤其是前几天，我们的空军军官居然把那个很重要的雄风飞弹的机密甚至我们的防空的拦截程序都已经给它泄露出去，然后呢，这个法院才求刑4年而已，这对我们来说，对一般大众来说。这个是泄露国防的重大机密，你怎么只宣判只求刑4年？这个对很多外国来说，外国对于这种所谓军事泄密案，这个都是终身监禁。
Now, beyond China's increasing infiltration of Taiwan's military, do you think there's any other reason why President Lai chose now to address China's security threats to Taiwan?
那至于说赖总统为什么会这样子？这么生气的，或者说强烈的推行他的意愿，或许跟美国有没有在底下施压不无关系因为其实往往我们看到一些我们政策的推动呢，往往都是很可能是美国私底下鼓励或者说劝诱台湾政府去这么做我觉得政府是认他有他的压力，这个是事实因为其实 我们刚好在中美的新冷战之间，我们确实是不好施政啊。但是其实我还是鼓励说，朝野广开大门，密门协商，做你们比较好的政策的产出，这样会比较好。
That was Defence International's Chen Guoming. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council says China's anti-secession law is just another attempt to undermine Taiwan's sovereignty.
这些法律对于我们台湾人民都没有任何的拘束力，同时呢，也不会改变中华民国作为主权国家的事实，那只会造成两岸人民的对立，还有激化彼此的敌意。
The MAC's statement comes as China marks 20 years since passing the law, which allows Beijing to use non-peaceful means to stop so-called secessionist forces in Taiwan. A top Chinese Communist Party official used the anniversary to push for unification and warn against Taiwan independence. The MAC says Beijing is using legal tactics to pressure Taiwan. In March 1945, as World War II was drawing to a close, the United States firebombed Tokyo. 80 years later, survivors look back and wonder if the world has learned anything from the deadliest single night in history's largest war. Bryn Thomas reports.
In the Pacific, the ruthless air war is continued against Japan. Another Tokyo raid is briefed at the huge superfortress base of Saipan. From the Marianas, 1,500 miles northward over the Pacific, flies this great armada on what has become almost a daily mission.
幼稚園に通ってました。幼稚園もしょっちゅう空襲警報が鳴って、ほとんど毎日帰ってくる。
The United States Army Air Forces conducted around 60 bombing raids over Tokyo during World War II. But it was the firebombings that took place 80 years ago, between March 9th and 10th, 1945, that left the deepest scars on the city.
その時に私たちは遠くにいましたからそんな詳しい経過はわからないんですけれどもズボッってね爆弾が落ちるのがわかるわけですよ。
The raids were the deadliest in history, with immediate deaths surpassing each of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki 5 months later. Nishio Shizuko was celebrating her 6th birthday at the time. 80 years later, she considers herself among the lucky ones.
話によればですけれど、クラスメートが20人いたと。で、その3月10日の空襲で、私以外は全員いなくなった。
They were among the more than 100,000 killed in the firestorm that consumed a quarter of Tokyo, 42 square kilometers on a single night. Allied bombers first used high explosives to turn Japan's paper and wood cities into kindling, then dropped incendiaries to ignite them. The blaze it created sucked air from lungs and cooked people alive inside their shelters.
ドアの前にはですね、数時間前までドア開けてください、中に入れてくださいっていう方たちが真っ黒に焼け焦げて、まるで人間の丸太のようになってドアの前にもうドアよりはるか上まで山のように積まれていたんですね。
Before the Tokyo firebombings, the Americans had been unsuccessfully trying to target Japan's factories and war economy.
20,000 feet below. The planes cruise steadily, making short of military objectives, making absolutely certain that every ton of high explosive will count.
The March 1945 raids reflected the brutal logic of total war. Allied planners, led by General Curtis LeMay, saw Japan's residential areas as part of its war economy. Small workshops produced materials, and their residents worked in them, making entire neighborhoods targets.
怖くて怖くてしょうがなくて出てしまったんですよ外へ。で空を見上げたらいや向こうの方がすごい燃えてるって思ったのがそれが浅草方面だったわけですね。
80 years later, the March 1945 raids on Tokyo are often remembered as yet another atrocity in a war full of them. For the few still alive who lived through it, the terror of that night is coupled with the fear that nearly a century later, the world has failed to learn from it.
で、ウクライナのこともあるので、先行き分かりませんよね。全く同じことが起きないとも限らないと私は思っていますので。
Devin Tsai and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
Blossoming cherry trees draw crowds around Taiwan every spring when the country's hillsides are dotted with pink and red. But as the climate changes, these trees aren't handling it well. Rick Lowett has this story.
One of Taiwan's chilliest winters in years is coming to an end, and residents are flocking to the hills around the capital, Taipei, soaking up the sunshine and the first signs of spring, cherry blossoms.
就是走向大自然，这样看看大自然，放松心情。
差不多是冬天玩，然后就是迎接春天的样子。
台北最有名就是阳明山，应该是台北最漂亮的地方。
These cherry blossom watchers are part of a growing crowd in Taiwan. In this national park just outside the capital, Taipei, thousands of cherry blossom trees of different varieties flower every year between January and March, Taiwan's coldest months. It's one of a growing number of cherry blossom sites in the country, attracting hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. But not every cherry blossom forest is flowering as successfully as this one. Many of the trees in Taiwan were planted by the Japanese when they colonized Taiwan for the first half of the 20th century. But as these imports reach maturity, they are not doing well, unsuited to Taiwan's hotter and wetter weather. Tree doctor Zhang Fengchun has dedicated decades to nursing Taiwan's ailing cherry trees.
呼吸用的，这个呼吸空气可以进出的，所以樱花树很喜欢呼吸啊。
But she says climate change is only going to make her job harder.
面对我们现在气候变迁的情况之下，就不是每一棵樱花树、每一种樱花树就可以适应台湾的气候风土，所以往往有时候为了种而种，最后不到1-2年就会整个枯死或者说烂掉。所以现在很多公园里面，我们看到很多樱花树，说实在话，普遍的生长不良。
In a bid to grow more healthy, beautiful trees, people here are turning to new local breeds better suited to Taiwan's climate. And one farmer, Zhang Zhoufu, has developed a hybrid of Japan and Taiwan varieties which thrives in warmer temperatures. He's even exported these plants to tropical Singapore. Taiwan's enthusiasm for cherry blossoms has come under criticism in the past. Decades ago, people replaced indigenous forests with cherry trees, impacting biodiversity and local ecosystems. Tree Dr. Jan says cherry blossoms should be enjoyed alongside other natural wonders of the forest.
尊重树木本身树性的原则，你要种它，你就必须要了解它，要共生。
As the planet warms and climate changes rapidly, Taiwan's natural landscape, like much of the world, faces an uncertain future. But understanding these trees beyond their aesthetic value could help them flourish and allow future generations to bask in their beauty. Lu Fili, John Su, Peachy Zhuang and Rick Lowett for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we go, check out this polar bear cub, Mika, who's made his first public appearance at a zoo in Germany. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.
For more stories from Taiwan, around the world, and Washington, D.C., please download the TaiwanPlus app and follow us on social media.